episode 1, JimE Gimp. I'm Jimmy. Part 1 is basically about initial amputation. Wanted to get some things across real quick. There's two types of amputees. There's elective amputees and non-elective. Elective is where you've had a traumatic injury and you've been dealing with it for quite a while, and you're like, that's enough, I've had enough, cut it off. Non-elective is any type of traumatic injury like a motorcycle accident or wartime injury, where basically you lose your limb like that and you wake up and it's gone. Typically, the traumatic injuries are the most difficult to deal with, where you just lose it right away. Either way, whether you've had time to think about it or whether it's just gone. When you come to in the hospital, if it's gone from a motorcycle accident or such things as that, you're going to get notified. The first thing I can tell you either way is don't look at it right away. Give your mind time to deal with it. Give your mind time to come out of the anesthesia. And even afterwards, give yourself a couple of hours at least. Feel it to let your mind come to terms with the fact that it's gone. Because looking at it right away can put you in shock. I know this from experience. I was an elective amputee, and the shock of seeing it gone, even though that I knew it was going to be taken, was just too much for my mind to handle, because I was still kind of under anesthesia. I was coming out of the fog. They was actually wheeling me to a room when I just pulled the cover off and looked at it. And even though it was all bandaged up, it was really too much for me to handle. And I started going into shock. It was really hard, but I did come out of it. I didn't completely go into shock. So that's about all for part 1. Just remember to take it slow, no matter which way you go. You become an amputee, and you'll live through it. It'll be hard. There'll be hard times, but you'll get through it. Another thing that I wanted to tell you is that, and this is something that doctors don't tell you, 23 days after surgery, after the amputation, you can get a post-op prosthetic. They're kind of like a temporary prosthetic that attaches to your limb, and it'll get you walking. Because when you lose your limb, lower extremity, you pretty much have to learn how to walk all over again. And the longer it takes for you to get to that point, the harder it's going to be for you, and the more atrophied you're going to be. So do everything you can, push for post-op prosthesis. That is something that is available to you. And that's going to be it for this episode, or this part 1 of episode 1. And I'll get back to you with levels of amputation. Hey there, Jimmy back again with part 2, levels of amputation. So, first off, when we say disarticulation, we mean at the joint. So that means they cut the two sections right at the joint contact. So, first off, when we say disarticulation, we mean at the joint. So that means they cut the two sections right at the joint contact. So the first level, which is the most common that I'm going to talk about, there's more levels than this, but the most common is first toe disarticulation or toe amputation, and that's where they cut off the toe at the joint. Sometimes the first joint, sometimes the second joint. We don't typically do toe fillers at the joint or for a single toe or even two-digit toe. The reason being is most amputations are from people who have vascular disease, diabetes, or any other type of vascular disease, and friction from these toe fillers can cause sores, which is a surefire way to get more toes amputated. So once all the toes are amputated, then we'll do a toe filler, possibly with a carbon foot plate, which will give you more energy return and a little bit better balance. There's also a foot plate with a attachment, basically attaches above the ankle. That isn't really something that I've seen a lot of, but it can happen under extreme conditions. The next level of amputation is CIMES. So we don't say disarticulation for CIMES, it's just CIMES, but it's at the ankle joint. This one is a little more challenging. We have some feet that will attach at a low profile. You typically got about 3.5 inches to 4 inches of clearance when there's a CIMES. It'll give you energy return, but not as much as a below knee amputation. There's two more levels of amputation in below knee. There's standard and short. You really want to get the longest amputation you can, because that's going to give you a better push off and better balance. Some of the feet that we have are running feet that need more of a standard below knee amputation clearance. A short below knee is a little bit more challenging for the amputee because there's not much left to attach a socket to. The next level is a knee disarticulation. So that is right at the knee joint. We can do prosthesis with knee disarticulation. The knee center is just going to be off on height. Not by a whole lot, but it'll be off. So you won't be wanting to get down on your knees too much, unless maybe you have a knee pad on the other side. Uh, Next thing is above knee. So we got long above knee, medium above knee, short above knee, and very short above knee. You want to get at least a medium above knee when it comes to above knee prosthesis. Any shorter than medium, and you're going to have problems walking because it's the higher you get, there's no bone to actually throw the prosthesis forward. Long above knee is preferable. That's usually about 4 inches above the knee. And that's a pretty good prosthesis. Now, the higher you get in amputation, the harder it's going to be to get around. The very next level, I've done maybe 3 hip disarticulation prosthesis. Now, when you're talking about a hip disartic, you're going basically 2 knee joints, or two joints, I'm sorry. The knee joint and then the hip joint. So you're using your whole waist to throw your leg forward. It's more challenging. You're slower with the hip disartic. Most hip disartics prefer to just go without a prosthesis. They will go around with either crutches or forearm crutches or possibly even a wheelchair or motorized chair. That is the most common that I've seen. The children up to teenager, I believe, they can do what's called a rotationoplasty. So rotationoplasty is basically when there's some type of a deformity in the femur, fibia, and the tibia. Usually the tibia is missing, they're born without it. What they do with that is basically they'll amputate the foot and take it at a knee disarticulation level, take the foot and rotate it and put it at the knee. So basically their foot becomes their knee, their ankle joint becomes their knee. It's very odd to see this as a prosthesis. I've done, again, probably 3. I've fabricated 3 of them. I'm also going to put pictures up as I'm talking, so it's very weird to see. You also have to have in this field a twisted sense of humor and basically a lot of it's hard to see, especially when you see children with these issues. Yeah, it's hard to see some of them, but it's also what's the word I'm looking for? Very positive, because when you see kids that they go with these prostheses for so long, all their lives, and they don't know any better. And most of them get around just as well as the able-bodied kids. A couple of the rotational plasties that I did, the kids were playing sports like football. Very rough sports, so it's not like their lifestyle is any different. Sure, they might not get around quite as well as the able-bodied kids, but they do pretty damn good. The biggest thing with amputation is when you're an adult or even a higher teenager and you lose your limb, you basically have to learn all over how to walk again. And with the unilateral amputee, which is a single amputee, then it's hard. But bilateral, which is both legs amputated, that's a challenge in itself. I've seen bilateral amputees walk in deep snow better than I do, and I don't do well in snow. And I've lived a lot of places that had a lot of snowfall. So that's going to be it for part 2. I'll be working on my next video. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. Again, if you know of any amputees you think that might gain something from these videos, please share it with them. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.